Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Chicago Business Review. I am Young Lee. I am your host, and I am so excited to bring on today's guest. He is an amazing entrepreneur. At the age of 24, Rohan Gupta is the CEO and co-founder of Quillbot, a cutting-edge NLP startup with millions of users. He holds a bachelor's in finance from the University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana and has a master's degree in computer science from U of I in Champaign-Urbana as well. He is passionate about technology, philosophy, and most importantly, changing the world. Quillbot recently raised $4.25 million in seed money earlier this year from venture capitalists that believe in their mission. So I am so excited to bring on Rohan so that he could tell us a little bit more about their journey and what they are doing. So please welcome Rohan to the podcast. Hey, Rohan, how are you?
Hey, Young. Thanks for having me.
I'm so glad to have you on, man. I wish we were recording some of the other conversations that we had previously. They were so insightful. I was so excited, but I'm so glad we're able to have you on right now because you're doing such amazing things. I am also a U of I grad, ILL, so yeah, it's I love it. But yeah, you had just graduated, you got your master's from U of I, and now you started this company, Quillbot. Could you give us a little bit more information about the company and what you guys are doing and what your mission is?
Yeah, so our mission is basically to make writing painless, and we do that by leveraging AI to sit with users every step of the way while they're writing. So our main product right now is our paraphraser. Basically, it just takes any content that you give it and rewrites it to be more fluent. Really a step up from grammar correction technology, but we've seen that, it's just really changed the writing workflow for millions of people. Saves them a ton of time, particularly ESL people, non-native speakers, who sometimes struggle to put together fluent sentences, and just traditional grammar correction technology just does not cut it.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how beneficial that's got to be for students and especially people that are coming to study from abroad and things of that nature. But how would you say that your product also helps out maybe not only just students, but people in the business world or in other fields and industries?
Yeah, it really just elevates their writing to a new level so they can communicate their thoughts clearly and concisely. But beyond that, anyone really focused on long form writing, our goal is to cut down on the pain, it takes to actually produce like 2 to 3 pages of content. Our goal is to bring AI into the process when users begin researching content, digesting that content, actually constructing their arguments and drafting their first draft, ultimately to, generating sentences for them so they can, iterate on them and, pump out work much faster, clearer, and of better quality.
That's incredible, man. So how did it kind of come about? How did it get started? Are you a great writer? Were you interested in writing? Or I'm very curious as to the origin story of the company. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess the joke is that none of the founders were good writers, so we built a robot to write for us.
Smart, yes.
Yeah, so, it really is sort of a stereotypical startup story. Me and my co-founder were both at school. My co-founder came to me and he with the early version of this paraphrasing technology just seemed to be much better than everything else out there in the market. Basically, we just built out an MVP like very scrappy, like a single web page, and threw it up on Reddit, and it just started getting a ton of traction. And then, before we knew it, we had 1 million users, and yeah, we started
1 million users. Wow, that's incredible, man. 1 million users right off the bat like that. That's amazing. Now, you were at U of I, and you're still really young. You're 24, which is incredible. And you guys have started this company. But what made you decide to become an entrepreneur versus going the traditional route? I mean, you had great majors and you went to a great university. Like, what kind of drove you to start the company versus maybe working and getting a traditional job like most people?
Yeah, I think I was always pretty creative, and I liked building things that people were using. So I really wanted to be connected to my work and connected to the end users of my work as well. And on top of that, I was very multidisciplinary too. I love like many different things like economics, like graphic design, programming, AI, all of that sort of stuff. And so entrepreneurship for me was just naturally connecting all of the different areas I was interested in. It allowed me to just build things that people use too. So it came very naturally to me. I knew in school I wanted to work on a startup or build my own startup since freshman year, honestly.
Wow. So you knew from early on that that this is something you wanted to do, and you had a goal and you worked at it, and you've achieved such great success in such a short period of time. And I know you guys are going to continue to do amazing things. So how is life different now versus when you first started it up, I guess?
Yeah, it's very different, very different. It's actually pretty interesting. Every phase of the startup is just qualitatively a game changer, So at this point, we have 25 heads. My day-to-day has changed to more high level and strategy. Early on, it was a lot of grinding, actually implementing, doing a lot of guerrilla marketing, doing a lot of programming and a lot of research. Now I have to think about like allocation of budget and like, are we hiring enough people, the right people? Think about the product roadmap and where we're going to be, 2 years from now instead of earlier on. I was just thinking month to month, And yeah, we have investors and a board now too. So it's just interesting. Like that whole dynamic has shifted a lot, and many more stakeholders. So.
Wow. That is such amazing responsibility, and it happened so rapidly. Like, how do you feel like you've grown into the role? Like, what have you done? Or are there people that mentor you? Or like, I would imagine that's a challenging shift in such a short period of time. So,
yeah, no, it was challenging. It was, I think, very healthy, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs go through a similar journey. Mentors are excellent, and they provide a lot of guidance on soft skills and the strategy. And I'm lucky to have some excellent investors as well who've been able to mentor and coach me as the team has grown pretty quickly. Also, we were able to hire some very mature individuals in leadership positions within our organization, and they just bring in best practices from other really great organizations that they've worked for, like IBM and RX Bar and places like that, and it allowed me to learn from what other great companies have done.
Wow, that's amazing. So you have 25 people now working at Quillbot, which is incredible growth. What does your typical days now look like? Like, what are you guys trying to do or work on? And particularly you, what are you doing day to day? So.
Yeah. I try to talk to everyone in the organization and really think about, be a thought partner with them and help them strategically I spend a ton of time on product, particularly new products. So we're going to roll out this research assistant, which we think is going to be a complete game changer for students everywhere, professionals everywhere, and it'll just, the 50 tabs you have open on Google when you're doing research for a project is going to be condensed down into a single interface that sits in your word processor. So really thinking about like pet projects like that, and working with our engineering team and our user experience team to visualize the product and build it and then eventually market it as well.
Wow. So this research tool, can you elaborate a little bit more? Or?
Yeah. Normally I wouldn't, but it's going to be out fairly soon. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't know if you can share, but it sounded so interesting from what you were saying right now. So.
Basically, you'll have a word processor, and the research assistant will read your prompt and read content on your word processor, and it'll start sourcing contextually relevant articles for you directly in a right-hand panel. Then it'll summarize the articles, so you don't have to read the entire thing before you know if it's relevant to your topic. It'll pull out all the key statistics and factoids. So with a single click, you can provide supporting evidence for your points, and it'll automatically cite it for you too. So you never have to think about a citation again, and it'll just build this living works cited page. And so you can sort of think about a student's workflow where they might have an outline and they're starting to fill in the outline with body paragraphs and arguments and things like that. And it'll just make it very rapid fire to the surrounding research and to fill out your outline into a full essay.
Wow. So that's mind-boggling to me because I went to U of I as well, but 2 decades before you went. So we still had like the Dewey Decimal System. We had to go to the library. Now, have you had any pushback from like educators, things of that nature, that this might be like almost cheating or like it's too helpful, making the students like not think or use their brains more because you guys are creating this artificial intelligence?
Yeah, our sort of goal is to actually try to augment and automate as much of the mundane tasks of writing as we can. So, for example, generating a citation, I don't think that improves a student's critical thinking in any capacity. And like you sort of mentioned, the Dewey Decimal System, like shifting through like 50 books, trying to figure out where the book is in the library. I think that actually cannibalizes the enjoyment of writing for students, and it makes it more painful. And so they really try to get out of it, and they don't really put in the effort. But if you alleviate a lot of those pain points, you can free up the student to just engage in critical thinking and argument construction, and actually learn the topic in more detail, which I think can enable them to pursue a writing career in a lot of contexts that may not have even been something they would consider because the task was just so painful earlier.
Interesting. Yeah. So you're saying it's more like using a calculator, or where it kind of takes away like long form division or those types of things. Okay. That's an interesting way to look at it. So, what would you say like motivated this particular product? I know you guys had mentioned like, that you guys weren't great writers. So this is an avenue, but like, how did it kind of get started? Were there other things that you guys were thinking about before you started Quillbot? Like,
I think as like a young founder who really wanted to pursue startups, I was looking for something that I was passionate about and that would gain market traction. And I think Quillbot really hit those. But prior, I was really just like experimenting with a lot of different products. My co-founder was experimenting with a lot of different products too. He was trying to build an AI that could generate multiple choice questions from textbooks automatically. And that wasn't sticking too well. The AI was pretty challenging to build, and Quillbot just seemed to work well. And we were both very passionate about education. I really believe in the democratization of education, like online school, things like that. This sort of new age of personalized learning that AI is actually enabling, where instead, an AI can actually sit with a student and really understand the needs of that particular student instead of like a class of like 40 people, and enable the student to learn at their own pace and with like real-time feedback. And I think, Quillbot in many ways is along the same vein here. So, it was a passion mission for us,
Yeah. So, were you always like a good student? Like, because it seems like you're trying to disrupt the educational system in the way that it's structured. And I also, when I was growing up, it was like, hey, go to school, get good grades, go to university, get a good job. And now I'm doing nothing that was related to my schoolwork and such. So like, what are your thoughts on just like education in general, like, and how it might be able to be improved upon? Or
so I was always a pretty good student, despite like trying to get out of homework as much as I could. I enjoyed having to pass a test that forced me to learn the source material. And like now I very much appreciate most of the classes that actually learn the material of like psychology and history and things like that. I think education just has a lot of hoops that you have to jump through now. And I think that actually really hurts the core mission, which is to teach the students. And I think it really puts a lot of students off from a particular course or from learning in general when they're forced to do work that they may view as like mundane, especially if they've already learned the material. I think oftentimes they feel like just a number in the system as well. And I think that the technology has certainly caught up to the point where we can, as a society, provide very granular education to students that meet their interests, that meet their skill levels. I think, for example, we learned NLP. I took a few NLP classes at school, but I really learned NLP online for free through YouTube via the Stanford lecture from arguably some of the best professors in the world. I learned it at my own pace, and it was far better than the classes I had at U of I. And I just think that, that will never be fully, and not that it's relevant anymore, but that will never be like accounted for in my resume, if that makes sense. I would not have gotten course credit for taking that. And I think just shifting to those like sort of online classes, or at least supplementing online classes with in-person instruction, I think, I think that can really be a game changer for a lot of students and how they even perceive education in their future careers.
Interesting. Huh. Yeah. I mean, I feel like YouTube should be YouTube University. You can learn pretty much anything that you want to learn on there. So I'm interested, like, with your company in particular, then, what are some of the things that you look for when trying to bring people on? Because, resume, I would imagine, is still a pretty big factor, but do you guys then do more like skill-based interviews, or what's the process in terms of joining Quillbot?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really read resumes a ton.
Wow. Okay.
I very much enjoy just interviewing people directly and getting a sense for their skill levels. I don't factor in, there's certain educational criteria that I'll factor in. For example, like our business development specialist has a PhD in geology, and that's not relevant to her job role as a business development specialist, but I think it really illustrates her capacity to learn complex material, to articulate complex material. It shows grit, and I think those are all skills that we certainly value as an organization. But like most organizations, we're looking to hire just very smart people with strong communication skills, depending on particular roles. Things I like to do in interviews is see if someone can explain a complex concept to me as if I was in middle school or if I was in high school. And I think that it illustrates breadth of skills, and things like that.
Awesome. So do you think the traditional way of school and university helps with that in any way? Do you think that that's more of like a natural skill that people are born with? Like, can you learn it? Because I agree with you. Like when I interview people now, I want to get a feel for them, how they think, how they process stuff. But like, where's that balance of, I guess, education versus just them showing the skill and or drive to succeed?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is learnable. I think individuals are predisposed to, certain traits, and they're naturally inclined to certain tasks, or certain, like certain folks are born engineers, for example. But I think a lot is very learnable. That doesn't necessarily mean the school system is efficient at learning it. I think you can take a class and spend a whole semester in a class and potentially condense that down to like a month of learning, and I think when students are sort of forced into that structure and they're and they see the inefficiency in the school system, oftentimes it feels like very frustrating, like they're like, why am I here? Like spending all of this time learning something I can learn far quicker, or on the opposite side, if the class is like too challenging, or if they're not getting the proper support they need in the class, that's also extremely frustrating too. And so, I think there's just many structural things that can happen in the school system to, make it more efficient and more personalized. And I think it's going in that direction, especially like with COVID. I think a lot of people are seeing how much they can learn online and exactly what the benefits are of in-person instruction, or like working, interacting with people socially in a school environment too. And I think that will inform a lot of decisions going forward for universities.
Interesting. Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And I'm seeing that with my own children as well, and just seeing them gravitate towards things that they want to learn. The only thing is like, I feel like at their age, they don't have necessarily the discipline or the drive. Like, were you always born with like a drive to build something or create something? Or do you think that that's something that you learn from repetition or kind of being dragged along for the beginning portion of it?
Yeah, I think I was always inclined to build stuff, very much so. But what I can say is, especially like in high school, early high school, freshman, sophomore year, me building stuff on the side certainly came at the cost of my grades, and a lot of my teachers and my parents alike were not particularly happy about that. And I just have no regrets whatsoever, spending that time and at the cost of the structured education I was receiving at school, and like foregoing my Spanish homework for, working on a website or something like that.
So I feel like a lot of the younger people that I talk to or that I mentor or that ask me for advice, always, that's one of their biggest hurdles is like, oh, you know what? I don't want to disappoint my parents. I don't want to disappoint my teachers. Like, how did you overcome that? Yeah.
Yeah, I think my parents were always, it was kind of a balance of trying to be as supportive as they could, while trying to guide me in whatever way they saw fit. I think this particularly clicked for me in college, but it's just really ownership of your own life, and that your parents can't live your life for you. And my mom, always felt that I was making trade-off decisions without fully understanding both sides of it. Getting the C in trig. Well, that's going to affect your college, but you're spending the time learning how to program or something like that. But especially in college, it really clicked that I actually understand the trade-offs, and my sort of value judgments here are a little different from you, or different from my teachers or whatever, and I'm sort of comfortable with the decisions I'm making because I have ownership over my life, and I'm going to have to deal with the consequences, and I acknowledge that. But I think that is also a really motivating force because you start to feel a lot of just control over your life, and acknowledge that you're the only one who can really make the differences that you want to see in your life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually want to revisit that. So you said something, ownership of your own life. I think that that's such an important lesson for people of all age, but definitely younger people to really take in is you know what? It's your life. Of course, everyone has helped you, but at the end of the day, you have to take ownership for your life. You get one life to live. It's pretty short. You don't want to waste it on things that you're not passionate about. And so it's so great to hear from somebody who has done that and gone that path and seen success from being passionate about something, because there's so many people I feel like that don't follow their passion because they're afraid of peer pressure or afraid of failure or things of that nature. So when you guys were starting out, was there any fear of failure, or was it just oh my gosh, we're just so ingrained?
Yeah, fear of failure is very interesting. I think that. I think fear of failure is probably one of the biggest things that prevents people from doing anything worthwhile. Because sort of by definition, if you're starting a task that you don't know if you're going to succeed or not, I guess sort of implied is there's some degree of personal growth that you need to undergo to get to the level where you can actually succeed at that task, and I think that's uncomfortable for people, and people who fail. But yeah, I think it's necessary for any sort of growth that you're going to undergo, and really getting over that, I think, is important as well. Yeah, we failed a lot, we failed quite a bit. And there's just inherent in startups, there's a lot of anxiety that goes, and uncertainty that goes into really taking a bet on certain decisions, business decisions that could be make or break for your company. But the other half of it that I find pretty amusing at this point is that we had a lot of just signals from people who don't even matter that we were going to fail. Like a potential, for example, a couple of accelerators turned us down, at critical moments in the company, and it was really heartbreaking for us. But in hindsight, I'm glad we didn't, go to those accelerators and give up a chunk of our company, and it forced us to keep building and keep our heads down and be scrappy, really. And yeah, sometimes these external signals don't even matter, because I think we were actually fortunate. If you look at the growth of the company, it was a pretty exponential curve, like from beginning to now. And more than 50% of the time, we thought we were going to fail.
Wow, really? Because you see it, your growth over this short period of time. It's been so amazing that I would think like, oh, we had no doubt. But how did you guys overcome that fear of failure that so many people kind of deal with? And you mentioned as well as like probably one of the biggest hindrances of people actually trying to achieve anything great in life.
Yeah. I wish I could answer that in like a clear, actionable way. But, I think it was really, you just need to internalize the situation that you're in and appreciate it as like a journey. I think being young helps in the sense that we didn't have like too much to lose. Like we knew that we had the skill sets to go out and get like jobs if we needed to. There was a lot of sunk costs that went into the company, but I personally felt that I never felt like we weren't learning. Like, I knew from day one that I was learning something new every day, and that it's all of those skills would be applicable in whatever career I chose. And I think that really helps. And I think framing it in the lens of building your own like human capital, I think can help overcome some of those anxieties. But, I think it's also sort of baked into being a startup founder.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand the roller coaster it is to be a startup or to start any type of business or to be an entrepreneur. People just see kind of the end product and they don't know the ups and downs journeys. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Was there a moment throughout this process where you guys were like, hey, this might actually be a thing, or we made it? Like, when was that moment for you guys?
It's like every other day. So one day we're going to fail. The next day we're going to be a unicorn. The next day it's like we're going to fail. It's really just a roller coaster analogy is probably the best analogy for the emotional state of any founder. And every single founder I've talked to has experienced the same thing. And even if all of the external signals are pointing in the right direction, there's still there's just like systematic risk in running a company. You don't know if the next day, Google's going to release the same exact product. You never know. So and that's crazy to hear for a company that has had such great growth, and you guys got that funding earlier this year, and to the outside person, they're like, oh my gosh, look at how successful. But yes, as the person that is helping navigate this process, I would imagine you're constantly going through those ups and downs of emotions and things like that. But you guys are doing just such an amazing job. Like, and you said earlier, like being younger helps, that you don't have as many things to kind of lose. And that's one of my big regrets, is not taking bigger chances when I was younger, because of fear of failure or expectations of loved ones. It's not even necessarily people that are just haters. It's like, you don't want to disappoint the people that are close to you. And so what you said about taking ultimately ownership of your own life, understanding that these people are here that love and care for you, but at the end of the day, your happiness is in your own hands and your destiny's in your own hands. So that was such great advice by you. And I hope the younger listeners hear that and understand that, like, you're going to go through ups and downs no matter what you do. But if you want to do something amazing or life-changing,
you're going to have to grow yourself, or if you already know what the end result is, that's usually not a big risk that you're taking. And so kudos to you guys for doing that. So for like a younger person that is interested in maybe going the route that you guys have went, or starting their own business or things of that nature, what do you think are things that like entrepreneurs starting out should focus on more so? Because it's not necessarily schoolwork. So then what do you think like would be good to focus on?
They need to find stuff that they're passionate about. I think that's the number one thing. I cannot even imagine someone doing a startup that they're not inherently passionate about, and it's just going to make the entire process way more painful. It depends on the sort of role you are as a founder. So I think there's like different, kind of stereotypical founders. But I think being interdisciplinary is like very helpful. Being able to sort of straddle like some of the business skills and some of the technical skills. I think at the end of the day, you need to really hone in your intuition as well. And I think that just comes from experience. And I personally, and I know my co-founders did as well. And we had a lot of experience like building, like my co-founder built these like Flash games. I built a lot of web utilities and websites, and sold some like small products online, things like that. And I think that gives you a ton of just like valuable experience, and that allows you to trust your intuition over time too. And I think ultimately that's the biggest thing for a founder is that, especially if you're working on a disruptive startup, you need to trust your intuition over what the incumbents are saying in that market. So yeah, it's trusting yourself as well.
Yeah, no, so you mentioned like being passionate about something. I feel like that is the biggest indicator of what you should be doing in life, is what you're passionate about. Like everyone is so different and everyone has different passions, but it's ingrained in you for a reason. It's because you're supposed to do something with it. But I feel like people are always like chasing the wrong things. Like you're chasing money, security, status. And it's like, you can actually, not that those are the most important things, but you can have those things chasing something that you're actually passionate about. But if you have no passion about what you're chasing, it's just going to be a grind. And so, yeah, I thought that was awesome. The interdiscipline is so important as well. And that's something that I'm working on even now to this day. Those were great tips. What would you say is like the culture for your company right now? What are you guys trying to have be like kind of your core factors for your companies?
Yeah, I think we're still figuring it out because we've grown so rapidly from just owners to 25 heads in like 9 months. I think as a personality of all the founders, like we're very cheeky type and kind of people. We like to be just like a little provocative, the right amount of provocative. And make a joke out of things as well. So I want to maintain that culture, going forward and indefinitely as well. I think we all appreciate innovation and being thoughtful, and bouncing ideas off of everyone, and meritocracy and those transparency and honesty. I think those are all going to be core cultural tenets of our company. So
that's awesome. Yeah, no, because I would imagine the field that you are in, being kind of a disruptor, that you're going to have some naysayers, you're going to have opposing views and things like that. How do you guys like deal with it? How do you like not listen to all the noise? Like, are you guys just inherently good at just like blocking everything out, do you think? Or because I would imagine there's got to be a decent number of naysayers, older people, traditional education, all of these types of things. So
I love the naysayers. They're the best part, because it's just so much fun to prove them wrong, and it helps drive you. I think not as much as like passion and other stuff, but it's certainly a chip on your shoulder. Certainly helps, and when it gets really tough and you sort of want to give up. I think that marginal difference might just like push you over that edge. It's like I can't let them be right. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's actually helpful. I think it also forces you to think critically about what you're actually doing. Because even if like right off the bat before they start speaking, you're like, no, I think this person's going to be wrong. At the end of the day, you like sit down and like you actually think about what they said and you hone your arguments or slightly deviate your path a little bit to account for what they've said. And I think that that's really healthy for companies.
You know what? That's incredible awareness on your part. First, yes, I agree. Naysayers do help. It does help to have haters. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want haters. But it's like, it really does drive and motivate you to, I don't know if it's the competitiveness in us or what, but you're like, no, I'm not going to let you be right. But the other thing that you said about that, which was really insightful, was that you still will hear what they have to say. It's not like you completely dismiss them and are like, no, you're completely wrong. But you're like, okay, well, let me see why they have the thoughts that they have. And is any of it valid? And how can I then tailor maybe what I'm thinking based upon their input, even if I don't necessarily agree with it? I think that's one of the greatest attributes that is lacking right now, is people are just so fixated on their own agenda and like just what their thinking is, and everyone else is wrong. So to hear you say like, you know what, even though I don't like it and it motivates me, I'm still going to listen and analyze and see how either I can tweak something or at least explain to them my point of view better based upon what they said. I think that that's so important for anyone that's trying to grow a business or just grow themselves, is like, no one's 100% right and no one's 100% wrong usually. I guess might be some people that are 100% wrong sometimes, but my wife always tells me I'm always 100% wrong. So, but yeah, that was super insightful, man. That's incredible. So I love that. What do you do when you're not working? Are you working all the time? Like, what other interests do you have?
Yeah. I love movies. I like reading. Spending time with friends and family as well. Board games, things like that. I like playing basketball. So yeah, just like usually normal stuff. Video games. So I think the startup stuff is probably the most unique thing in my life. Everything else is kind of cliche.
Yeah. But that's great, man. Yeah, you need that balance and such. So what would you say, like, is there anything that you could be passionate about that, I guess this I'm trying to think of the question correctly. So like, for example, my children, I'm not sure what they're passionate about. And so I feel like I have to kind of push them along, but I know my son, for example, is very passionate about playing video games, like you just mentioned. And I think he's pretty good at it. But, the Asian parent in me is like, I feel like that's a waste of time. How would you, is there anything that you're like, you know what, that's actually maybe not the best use of your time? Or like, how would you navigate a situation like that where maybe you're like, this is not the best use of your time, or your passion might not be beneficial for you in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a very complex question.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I just I thought of it just because you had mentioned the video game thing, and it's more my own life problem that I'm trying to get an answer from. But
I also don't have kids, so I could be very hypocritical in 20 years and like not really know what to say. I think it also depends on how you sort of view life, because a lot of people view life as like a journey, and that's like a summation of your experiences, and if you're spending most of your life doing something that you just genuinely don't enjoy, and I think childhood is like precious for most people, and that's certainly like in my life the only time where I was like legitimately carefree. I think you can potentially, if you are very discouraging of like video games or activities that your kids like genuinely love, you can take away important memories and experiences from them. So I think that's important to note. I think everything is sort of like a balance as well. So if they're spending literally all of their time nonstop instead of going to school, they're like actually addicted to video games, I think that's also problematic. And I think it's healthy to encourage your kids to explore different outlets and recreational activities. And I think if you find your kids aren't particularly passionate about anything, that could be a function of just how much activities they've actually explored, and there's something about being the helicopter parent and like forcing your kid to like be a violinist or something like that, and if your kid like has a lot of pushback after like year one, and it's like, I really do not like the violin, and still forcing them to be a violinist, I think that's also an extreme. But encouraging them to try the violin, try like playing drums, and maybe music's not their thing, try sports, try programming, try video games, try art. There's so many things in life that they can do. Horseback, I can like go on, and I find it hard to believe. I mean, I don't know, but I find it hard to believe that a kid won't enjoy some of those things, and that a kid has tried all of those things as well, right? And to really say that you're like unable to be passionate about something, both of those things have to be true, So
that's great insight. Actually, that's helpful for me. And I've heard Gary Vee also talk about it amongst young people. It's like, try as many things as you can. Don't think like this one thing is it. If you try enough things, you're going to find your calling. You're going to find what you're passionate about. If you haven't found it, it's probably because you haven't tried enough things already. So, no, that was a great answer, man. I appreciate that. And that's going to help me try to be a better parent as well. So that's awesome. I know I want to be very respectful of your time because I know you're busy. And so, can you tell people where they can find more information about Quillbot, and just share a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, you can go ahead to quillbot.com, QUILLBOT.com. You can try our tools for free. You can be a premium subscriber if you like. You get some additional benefits, and the tool becomes a little better. And just for this podcast only, you can get a free month if you go and in the contact form, just say Young sent you. We will make sure you get a month free premium.
Thank you so much, Rohan, for doing that. I'm sure our listeners will be super excited to test out your program, and it seems like you guys are doing amazing things. We can't wait for that research assistant to come out. Is there a time at which that's going to be coming out, or
hopefully early next year? So,
early next year. Okay, so please, yes, everybody look out for that. And Quillbot.com, we'll have the link in our show notes. Also, please check out the website. They're doing amazing things. I know so many people have already expressed through reviews and such how life-changing it's been for them to be able to communicate their message clearly when they felt like, it's been a source of struggle or frustration for them. This tool has really helped alleviate that barrier. So you guys are doing incredible things, Rohan. If people want to connect with you, is LinkedIn the best way to reach out to you? Okay, great. So yes, remember Rohan Gupta, Gupta. He's on LinkedIn. You can also email him if you have any questions. But probably LinkedIn would be the best way to do that. And remember, if you comment below or leave a comment on this podcast, please. And then if you guys are interested in signing up, just mention the Chicago Business Review or myself. And Rohan is nice enough to offer you guys up a free month of premium service. So you would be foolish not to take that offer. Rohan, thank you so much for your time, for sharing, and for doing amazing things, man. I'm so proud to be more of an acquaintance, and I feel like we've built a relationship, and I'm so looking forward to seeing all of the amazing things that you and your co-founder and Quillbot are going to be doing in the years, and we'll definitely be supporters and rooting you guys on. So thanks so much again, Rohan. I really appreciate it. And everybody, please make sure you check it out. Quillbot.com, Quillbot.com. Check out the software. They have the free version, so you can just mess around with it. And once you mess around with it, you will for sure sign up for their premium service. So mention the Chicago Business Review or myself for the free 1 month of service. And if we could ever be of assistance to you, reach out to us. You can reach out to Rohan on LinkedIn, and please just leave a comment. If you know anybody who is looking for this type of technology, share the podcast, share the link. We would really appreciate it. And I can't wait to see all of the amazing things that you guys are going to do, Rohan. So thanks again for being a guest on the show this week.
Yeah, thank you, Young.
Have a great day. And everybody, thanks so much for watching and listening. If you found value in this, if you could please comment, like, subscribe, share. It really helps us to connect you with amazing entrepreneurs and people that are doing amazing things like Rohan here. So thanks again, everybody. We will catch you next time on the Chicago Business Review.